Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 29. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribrajakachaja Stotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadik Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 29. Sarva bhutas tamatmanaha sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshina. Sarva bhutas tamatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshinaha. Sarva bhutas tamatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshinaha. Sarva bhutashtam, situated in all beings. Atmanam, the Supersoul. Sarva, all. Bhutani, entities. Cha, also. Atmani, in the self. Ikshate, does see. Yoga Yuktatma, one who is dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. Sarvatra, everywhere. Samadarshinaha, seeing equally. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. A true yogi a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Purport. A Krishna-conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramatma. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Riddesh Arjuna Tishtati. The Lord, in his Paramatma feature, is situated within the heart of both the dog and of a Brahmana. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by his presence in either a dog or a Brahmana. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but he is not present in all hearts. That is a distinction between the individual soul and the super soul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Krishna-conscious person can see Krishna in the heart of both a Brahmana, a believer, and a non-believer. In the Smriti, this is also confirmed as follows. Atatatvac sa matrivad atmahi paramohari. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father or Mother is also. Consequently, the Super Soul is always in every living entity. Outwardly also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual or superior and the material, the inferior. A living entity, although part of the supreme energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations, according to the results of fruit of work, in all circumstances remain as servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, and while in the spiritual energy, he serves the Lord, Supreme Lord, directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness. Sarva bhuta stamat madam, sarva bhutani chatmani, ikshate yoga yuktatma, sarvatra samadarshinaha. So that is a question. The question is, who am I? That question was asked by one of Lord Chaitanya's intimate devotees, Sanatana Goswami. Ke ami? He says, who am I? Kemo amara jara tapatrai. Why am I suffering the miseries, the three miseries of the material world? He and I, Johnny, I don't know this. Kemone hitahoy. I don't know how to benefit myself. This is the vision of the devotee. He doesn't know. He asks Krishna to enlighten him. 99% of people that we meet, that we see, if we look at our society, neither do they know what is good for them, how to improve themselves, neither do they know who they are. Not knowing who you are is the basic of life. Even in our illusion in the material world, and everybody buys into this illusion. This is Krishna's energy, believing that I am this body, I belong to this family, I belong to this country. Everybody buys into this. People who don't buy into it, who don't even recognize their own bodies, they're considered crazy. They're put in an insane asylum. So, from the transcendentalist point of view, not knowing our relationship with Krishna is madness. And therefore this material world is a giant, insane asylum. And just like in a madhouse, you cannot trust anybody. Because a madman, he may do anything. So similarly, in the material world, you cannot trust anybody. Because they are divorced from reality. The reality is that everything is connected with Krishna. This is what Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam, it says right here in the first line, that a knowledgeable person, an enlightened person, he sees the super soul in everyone's heart. Now, it's not difficult to understand that the super soul is in my heart, because it's there. It's what we call in normal language, it's the conscience. That when we do something wrong, we feel in the heart that we have not done right. And when we are perplexed, we are inspired by that presence in the heart. If we go inside, people who have practiced spiritual life, yoga means spiritual life. Yoga here and yoga here doesn't mean just the yogi who goes to the forest, sits under a tree and practices the Eightfold Yoga system. That is also yoga. The yoga here means to connect. Yoga means to make a connection. So the connection to what? The connection to the soul within our heart. He is aware. He is there 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter who you are. If you actually stop your material activities, if you take distance from the ways of the material world and go inside and meditate, you will find that the super soul is there. There is another consciousness there. It's that consciousness, that voice that whispers to us that this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. It's that voice that makes you aware when you do something for the good of others or when you do something which is hurtful to others. That voice is there. Therefore, in the Gita, Krishna repeats this message again and again and again. My dear devotees, the message is very simple. There is only one message. Jiver Swarup Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. This is the answer given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. It's questioned, who am I? Lord Chaitanya replied, Jivera Swarup Hoy. The real essence, the Swarupa, the eternal essence of the living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. Nitya Krishna Das. Krishna Tatashta Shakti, Beda Abheda Prakash. We are the energy of Krishna, the Tatashta, the marginal energy of Krishna. On one sense, we are equal to Krishna in quality, and in one sense, we are different to Krishna in quantity. It's just like on the beach. The waves come in and the waves go out. And so one part of the beach is sometimes uncovered, and then when the waves come, sometimes it is covered. So it is in between it. It's called Tatashta. It is neither covered nor uncovered. So in the same way, we both are equal to Krishna because he's our Supreme Father. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Actually, Krishna's body is there and we are minute particles in that body. And because we belong to Krishna's body, our natural duty, our real duty, is to cooperate with that body. Just like in my material body, I have so many appendages, my hands, my arms, my legs, my eyes. They are meant to work in cooperation with me. the decision maker. When I get some food, I tell my fingers, put the food in my mouth. I don't put it in my ear. Put it in my mouth, because I know that by putting food in the stomach, I become strong. So just like every part of my material body is eternally connected with my material body and is meant to work in cooperation with this body, similarly my identity is a spirit within the body, because it is my body. It is not I body. It is mine. It is my possession. I am the owner of the body. I am different. The body is one principle and I am another principle. I am neither the body nor is the body me. I am the owner, my body. So the owner of the body, the spirit soul, is eternally connected to the Supreme Soul. That's why I am called Atma, and the Supreme Soul is called Paramatma. What is the difference? That is explained by Krishna. And the difference is, Kshetragyam, Krishna says, Apimam Vidi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. My dear Arjuna, Kshetragyam, the knower of the field, Chapimam, that's me, Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata, in every living entity. Kshetraga Gyanam Yat Tach Gyanam Matirmama. In my opinion, Matirmama, and in my opinion, and we should pay attention. This is not just anybody's opinion. This is Krishna's opinion. The speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, who's been worshipped on this planet for the last 5,000 years, just because he spoke this wonderful philosophy. He says, I am living in every living entity, in every living entity's body. Kshetragyam. Kshetra means body, and Gyan means to know. Kshetra means field. Just like a farmer, he has a field, and he knows his field, so he knows that in the spring he has to plow and put the seeds, plant the seeds, he has to water it, and then in the summer and in the autumn, the crops will come. Because the farmer knows the field, he knows what to do. It has to be plowed, seeds are to be put, in this field these seeds, in that field this. So the farmer knows his fields. He knows how to extract benefit from that field. So in the same way, we should know the field of our body. The body is meant to be utilized. And how to utilize the body? In the service of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna says, Kshetra Gyayor Gyanam, that knowledge that understands the difference between the body and the owner of the body, Yat Tach Gyanam, that is real knowledge, in my opinion. Not the knowledge how to make machinery and how to make industry and how to make machines. That is not knowledge. That is ignorance. In fact, there is an example that when in Krishna's pastimes, him and Arjuna were hunting in the forest because they were warriors. So sometimes the warriors, they would hunt in the forest to keep a balance even among the wild animals. Maybe there were too many tigers or too many lions. In this way, the Kshatriya kings, they made sure that the forest was also protected. The warriors, the warrior kings, the rulers, they didn't just protect the human beings, but they also protected the cows, and they protected the land, and they protected the forest. So Krishna and Arjuna on the bank of the river Jamuna, they were in this forest called Khandava. Now this forest was under the control of Lord Indra. You must know that above us there are many, many powerful beings called demigods, and they control everything we do. We may think we are independent, but we're not. It's just like if there is an ant colony on the floor of my house, I can watch the ants, and they're very busy getting food, creating their lifestyle, fighting with one another. And the ants, they're not aware of me, but I'm controlling. I can sweep them away in 1 second. But I tolerate the ants, or I tolerate whatever animals I may have in my house according to the benefit that they give to me. So in the same way, the demigods control us. And Indra controlled one particular forest called Khandava. But this forest was needed by the fire god Agni, who was another demigod. But Indra would not give it to him. Agni, the fire god, he wanted to eat this forest, because in those days the Brahmanas were offering so many sacrifices into the fire yaga, into the fire sacrifice, so much ghee and so much oblations, that Agni became overwhelmed, almost like indigestion, and he required all these herbs in the forest for medicinal purposes. So he prayed to Krishna and Arjuna, you please let me burn this forest and eat it, but Indra will not allow. Every time I try, he sends torrential rains and he extinguishes the fire. So Arjuna agreed, and he fought off Indra with his arrows, and he allowed Agnidev, the fire god, to eat the forest. At that time, in the forest, there was one person, one demigod called Mayadanava, and he was saved by Arjuna from the burning fire. And he became so indebted to Arjuna that he helped him to build part of his palace in Indraprastha. But apart from that, he also offered Arjuna to teach him the science of machines. So Arjuna went to Krishna and he said, my dear friend Krishna, this architect, Mayadanava, this engineer who is building our palace in Indraprastha, is offering me the knowledge of machines. Should I take it or not? And Krishna said, better not. It's not for you. So, for the last 200 years, we have been overwhelmed by the so-called Industrial Revolution. But what has that revolution achieved for us? It has moved us away from God. Bhaktivinoda has a beautiful song where he sings about the pastimes of getting knowledge, because Bhaktivinoda was very educated guru, very educated acharya in a Sampradaya line. He worked as a magistrate for the British, so he was very well educated. But he commented that this knowledge that I got by studying, he said, Se jnana durbala. He said, this knowledge has no strength. Se jnana ajnana jani. I know that this knowledge is not knowledge. Why? Because the more we engage in material knowledge, the more we put our resources in our own activities and our own technology and our own endeavors, the more we forget to depend on Krishna's mercy. Krishna, he has his pastime in Mathura, which was a great city, and he had his pastimes in Dwarka, which was another city, but his real pastimes are in Vrindavan, no city. Very simple, living in the forest, small houses that could be dismantled and rebuilt very easily, and living on the lap of material nature, and depending on the mercy of nature, the mercy of the cows, and the mercy of the forest. So the reason that we support cow protection, because to live in a material world and not forget Krishna and to depend on His mercy, we need to live in a rural environment. This big cities and technology and factories and scientific research simply takes us further and further away from God. So, and why should we think like this? Why do we take this example? Again, Krishna explains in the Gita, Vidya Vinaya. The purpose of knowledge is to become humble. Vinaya means humble. Why do we have to become humble? Because if we're not humble, we cannot accept any instructions from others. If my glass is full, you cannot put anything more in it. You may be distributing nectar from your pot, and I come with my glass, but if my glass is full, I cannot take your nectar. First I have to empty my glass. In the same way, if our psyche, if our senses, if our knowledge is simply absorbed in our own desires, our own program, we can never connect to Krishna's program. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he says, yes, Chanting the holy name is a process for cleaning the heart. Chanting the holy name is a process to understand the spiritual reality of the creation and move away from the material so-called reality, which is temporary and full of misery anyhow because of the competition. Because you cannot put your trust in anyone. Because everything becomes diminished, decrepit, and dies. You put your energy in chanting the holy name to awaken you to the other dynamic, which is, I'm a spirit soul, I'm connected with Krishna. But to be able to make this connection with Krishna fruitful, you need to be humble. You need to be able to accept what Krishna is giving you. If you're not humble, chanting the holy name will not help. Or it will help after a long, long, long time. Therefore, Trinad api sunichena, Lord Chaitanya said, you want to get the effect of chanting the holy name, you want to make a connection with Krishna, then you have to be more humble than the grass. The grass is very humble, very beautiful to begin with. People spend millions to make beautiful grass gardens. The grass, you step on it, it gives you a soft cushion for your feet. And when you step away, it comes back up. It doesn't fight you. It gives you a welcoming experience. In fact, in the early mornings of summer in India, when there is some dew on the grass, people walk barefoot because it's very healing for the feet. So Trinadapi Sunichena, Taror Api Sais Nuna. Not only more humble than the grass, but more tolerant than a tree. Tara means tree. Sahisnuna means to be tolerant. A tree is very tolerant. It gives you shade, it gives you fruit, it gives you leaves, it gives you wood. You can even cut the tree. It will stand in a storm, in the winter, in the summer. It will not protest. So, amanina manadena, give respect to others, because unless you're humble and tolerant, how can you respect anybody else? If you're proud, if you think you're better than anybody else, what is the point? And this is the catastrophe of material life. This is the catastrophe of the society in which we live in. That you have to be famous, you have to be number one, you have to compete. You cannot be a nobody, you're considered a loser. The very opposite of what is required to be receptive to God's mercy. So, Amanina manadena, if you feel like this, if you actually feel humble, then you can respect others. Then Kirtaniya Sadahari, then your chanting or your connection with Krishna actually works. 24 hours, it works. You can chant all day and all night. The Goswamis, they Shankya Purvaka Namagana Natibi Kalavasani Krito. They passed their times, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, by whose mercy we can understand Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, by whose mercy we can understand Krishna. They were the intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya, who came with Krishna as Lord Chaitanya to this world to teach us the process of devotional service. They spent their time simply chanting the glories of the Lord. Kala Vasani Krito. They passed their time. Kala means time. Vasani means to do. So and what was the result of this chanting? Nidra Ahara Vihara Kadi Vijito Chatyanta Dinochayo. They were able to forget about eating, sleeping, and all kinds of sensory enjoyment, and they became very, very humble. Dinochayo. They became very humble. And what was the result of this humility? The result of this humility is that they were able to connect with Krishna in Vrindavan. Radha Krishna Gunasmrita. They could remember the qualities of Radha and Krishna. Madhuri Manandena Mattaliko. And this remembrance of Krishna's quality, this remembrance of my connection with Krishna made them mad. They made them completely crazy, mad, in madness. Just imagine, when you get some pleasure, you feel a little bit of madness. A happy person is a little mad. Everybody loves a lover because he's a little crazy. He loves everybody because he has some love. But of course, this love is limited in the material world. But if you actually have love of God, even a little bit, you cannot but stop expressing it. If you really have any Krishna consciousness, you cannot stop speaking about Krishna. You cannot stop. Just like when you love somebody, all you do is think about this person and talk about that person. So that's the message from Krishna. For today, let us become all yogis. Let us appreciate the great gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And we can wrap up this material illusion in no time at all. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we have some messages from Mandi Priyor in England. Hare Krishna. And Riven Cloud. Always wonderful to listen to your classes and delivery of what our spiritual master wanted us to preach. Very enlivening, especially in these times where bridge preaching or loft preaching and similar are rampant, which are all fancy name for beating around the bush preaching. Mandi Prior again, thank you very much, dear Prabhu. And Riven Cloud, yes, you're right. Practicing devotional service for material gain is definitely not what Srila Prabhupada taught. He taught us that the purpose of practicing devotional service is to become humble, is to connect with Krishna. Thank you very much. So I'll see you all on Friday. Thank you for participating. Hare Krishna.